Hey, 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 everybody. Hey, hey, testing, testing, testing. One, two, three. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. We've got a lot to talk about. You know, we've been doing a lot of focusing on the Texas State Democrat. And they helped us today at Rainbow Push. They helped us to understand what is really going on and why this is so important. And let's be very clear, there is a plan at play here. You can call it conspiracy, whatever it is, but if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, my father often said. And so, be very clear, the oligarchs never ever went out of business. My father said slave masters never retire, and they don't. As soon as the civil rights bills went through, well, let's go back to Jim Crow. As soon as slavery ended, Jim Crow was put in motion. As soon as voting rights was signed into being, the push against it was put in motion. These things happen. Every action merits an equal and opposite reaction. It's scientific fact. And so these legislators are really leading a new civil rights fight. Reverend Jackson often says and reminds us that we have been free for a shorter period of time than we were enslaved. So this power struggle, this power dynamic is very new to us. And we've been in presidential level politics for 40 years. Because Reverend put us there. We got into politics really 60 years ago because Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King and James Farmer and Whitney Young and Bayard Rustin and Roy Wilkins, et cetera, et cetera. They put us there. So let's talk about this, and Jimmy Lee Jackson and Viola Liuzzo and Reverend James Reeb and all these martyrs. Let's talk about what the Texas Democrats are doing, particularly the black ones. The black seats that we will lose, these reliable seats. We already have one that the governor has refused. He has refused to fill Sheila Jackson Lee's seat, which was Sylvester Turner's seat. Almost for a year, these people have been without a representative. You could have at least had a real fight about the big, beautiful bill. But that has been denied. And there are at least 3 other Democrats whose seats are open at this time in Washington. But the power we're seeing increasingly is with the states. Don't go past these state elections because they determine who goes to Washington. But we need to know what this fight is really about, and you need to go and tell people about it. Tell everybody you can, because you can see from this week, now California and other states are going to look at redrawing their districts, but not just blue states, red states are already in motion. And chillingly, and yes, I do say chillingly, the president has decided that we are going to have a mid-decade census, excluding, for the first time in our history, excluding everybody in the United States. So this census will reflect a whiter, older, far more conservative America. Not to mention the fact that our nation's capital will soon be swarming with the U.S. military as the police. That's coming to a city near you. Remember, our police officers have been trained overseas in occupied territories. They know how to occupy. There's a lot going on. So we are very excited. Joining Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds, who is with us all the time. You all know him so well. We've got 2 brilliant women with us. I'm so excited to have Texas State Representative Barbara Gervin Hawkins, who is now the head of the Black Legislative Caucus. And we've seen this sister go viral. I think we're like twins. When we saw each other today, we said, uh-oh. Someone who was a little off the chain in terms of the dress. Gotcha. Texas State Representative Jolanda Jones, lawyer who has been absolutely, all of you have been on point, helping us to understand just what we are dealing with. And we really need to understand it. I'm excited to have this brilliant young pastor from here in Chicago, Reverend Jamar Boyd II, who has been organizing churches that you have to go to. He has been on the phone. In fact, he was on the phone turning away from the camera. Come on, Pastor Boy. While he is organizing these churches in Chicago. And you're going to help us to understand why it is that you felt that that was so important. And we have got, of course, the chairman of the Transformative Justice Coalition, one of our foremost advocates for voting rights, Attorney Darrell Jones. Of course, he and Barbara Arnwine head that wonderful organization. But let's get started. You know, with all due respect, Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds, I'm going to give it to these ladies first, so that they can help us to understand what it is that we're doing. Madam Chair, take it away. What is going on? Why have you run away, or have we mischaracterized this?
Well, we're not running from anything. We're running to the fight. It is important right now to adjust, to go after what is happening in Texas. It is so important to save democracy, not just for Texas, but for America. So I come to say this today. America is under attack, and particularly our minorities. There's a racist move going on with a white nationalist takeover that is trying to dismantle our district, to dismantle and reduce our political power. And that's a problem. And I'm happy to be here with my colleagues because, as you said, Representative Yolanda Jones, as an attorney, she knows the rules. She keeps us straight. She helps us understand the power or the less power that they really have as they threaten us. So we're running into the fight because we're working for not only just us, but our children and our children's children. As you well know, PUSH has been around a long time fighting the fight, the good fight. We're prepared to get into good trouble to continue this fight. Representative Jones, why don't you share with them that legal piece that we're faced?
So my name is Yolanda Jones, and I'm the state representative for House District 147 in Houston, H-Town, Texas. So let me explain something to you. The Supreme Court, who Donald Trump owns, has said that you can actually politically gerrymander. In other words, Republicans can cut us up and slice and dice this as long as it's to give Republicans more seats in Congress than Democrats. But what is still unconstitutional is racial or racist gerrymandering. And what they are doing in Texas is racially gerrymandering. They are racist. Let me explain to you why. We have 4 Black seats in Congress: Jasmine Crockett, Mark Vesey, Al Green. We had Sheila Jackson Lee and Sylvester Turner. They both died. So CD 18 is empty. Those are traditionally, historically Black seats. They have pitted Jasmine Crockett against Mark Vesey. So only 1 Black congressional seat will survive. They have pitted Congressman Al Green against whoever the CD 18 person is, which will leave only 1 Black seat. They have turned Congressman Green's district into a Hispanic Republican seat, and they've actually moved him into ours. I live in CD 18, so moved him into CD 18. So the point is, we are, and I'm going to make this real easy for you, we are the Texas Black Democrats, and we are in partnership with our other colleagues who are Democrats. What are we doing? We are fighting to make sure that Black people and brown people in the United States of America do not get erased from Congress, that our voices are not diluted, that we still have the right to elect a representative of our choice. So it is racist, because the only way for them to give Trump his 5 seats is to literally, strategically, surgically precise, go into districts where there are concentrations of Black and brown people who have organically sort of moved by each other, and split them up. So you may go to a neighborhood, your neighborhood might be next, and we'll literally go down the street in your neighborhood, and you and your neighbor across the street have literally different representatives. So you might be lucky and get drawn into the 1 Black seat they're going to keep, but somebody else might be stretched out to some rural area with farmers where you have nothing nothing similar to them. Mm-hmm. So the point is, that is what they're doing. So when we talk about this from a legal perspective, we cannot say it's a power grab. That's legal under the Trump Supreme Court. We cannot say Republicans are trying to give themselves more seats. That's legal under the Supreme Court. We have got to point out the obvious that they are literally finding black people and brown people. And let me be clear, for those of y'all who don't know, yo hablo español, aprendí en las escuelas, y hay muchas Latinos que son negros. In other words, there are a bunch of black Latinos.
Absolutely.
My son is Afro-Latino. So you can't tell what's Latino. And they are targeting us. And the only thing you can do is break us up and separate us, which is what they do. So from a legal perspective, we need for you to talk about that. And let me also tell you about these lawsuits. They bogus. He making up stuff. There is no felony for what we're doing. They're issuing arrest warrants for civil stuff, not criminal stuff. Yet they're dispatching the FBI against us. Okay, so we are literally in hiding because the jump out boys trying to jump out on us. So it is very, very, very important that you remember that they are dispatching. It's like when they were chasing us when we were slaves and they had the dogs chasing us. That's what this is about. So we are going back and we are repeating slavery. And finally, I'll say this. 2 days ago was the 60th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act. And life before the Voting Rights Act was terrible. I don't need to go into that. I'm certain that Rep. Reynolds is going to talk to you about that. But they're trying to take us back before we had voting rights. And what we are saying as a Texas Legislative Black Caucus is now you're not about to do that to us, right? You're not going to do that to us. And we have lawyers now because of great public education. We about to fight you in the court and we about to beat you.
Well, you know what? Let's go back to that. Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds. And as long as you all are here, let us go back to that because we have forgotten about that. And there are a couple of generations who never even knew that. I mean, they're saying, the civil rights movement made no difference. Oh, no. It made a tremendous difference. That's why they're fighting us so hard. So perhaps we need to go back because you're the first person to hold your seat as a Black person since Reconstruction.
That's correct.
Hey, you need to explain that. Because this is, because also Texas is very interesting because it's a rainbow state. And there are more Black people in that state than any other state in the union. That just happened on us. Now Houston is very, very close to overtaking Chicago as the third most populous and largest city in the nation. That's a tremendous consequence.
Well,
help us understand what we're looking at.
Well, first of all, Santita, thanks for having me on with my amazing colleagues here. They are amazing to work with, and certainly I was happy they went first because they are leading the way. And we are so grateful for the time that was invested into us today at Rainbow Push. That was amazing. And to have your dad there, it meant so much to all of us. And your mom, the wisdom she shared was just really transformational and something that we'll never forget. We certainly know that in this moment, we are really reshaping history as we know it. I mean, we know that as Representative Jones talked about, that on the heels of the 60th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act, signed by a Texan, Lyndon Baines Johnson, nonetheless, we know that that really afforded opportunities for all of us to be where we are today in public office. But we know we owe a great deal of gratitude and debt for those who came before us that really paved the way. And we can never forget, the Reverend Jacksons and the John Lewises and the freedom fighter Fannie Lou Hamers and all those who really made those sacrifices. I mean, we really owe it to them because they gave it all. They left it all on the field. And here we are in 2025, never thinking that we would have to be relitigating those issues, but we're fighting. This is the new civil rights. And this is our moment where we have to take a stand now because the future generations that are to come will depend on us because do we go backwards on our watch or do we go forward? And I say we go forward because we're fighting. Texas Democrats are leading the way. And I want people to know that really the Black Caucus, has been at the forefront of this, leading this fight. We have been the most outspoken, and I'm not trying to compare, but more African Americans would be disproportionately impacted because of what they're trying to do to reduce our congressional representation that you heard earlier. So we should have more representation in Congress, not less. So I know that the fight continues, and I hope that everyone will realize that this fight isn't just a Texas fight. This is a fight for the country. And we talked about that today at Rainbow Push, why it's so important that people in all states get involved. Because so goes Texas, so goes the nation. They're not stopping in Texas. They're coming to Missouri, and they're coming to Florida and Indiana and other states. So don't think you're safe and that just let them Texas folks fight it out. No, this is about democracy. And as Dr. King once stated, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And they are certainly coming for all of us. If we need to have the attitude, they come for one of us, they coming for all of us. That way we stay united and strong. I'll say this final thing. I just thought about something. It made me think as I was speaking, the way that they were able to peel some of us off before is when they start pitting, field ends versus house ends, light skin versus dark skin, this South versus North. We need to say, no, that's one Black America. We have a Black agenda and a Black unity, and we're going to stay united. United we stand, divided we fall. So I hope that other people will unite with our Texas Democrats and fight, because we got to be there when they come for Indiana, and when they come for Georgia, and when they come for other states. We have to be there. We got to say we got to go all in to protect what our forefathers paved the way for. So I'm fired up. I'm so energized by Representative Barbara Gervin Hawkins and Representative Jones and the rest of our members. And we're risking everything. And one of the things I didn't tell you, Santita, I don't know if you know, yesterday the Attorney General filed a lawsuit, Daryl, to expel 13 Democrats. I was one of them. And so they're trying to take my seat that it doesn't belong to me. It belongs to the people that elected me, but they are trying to remove me from office. And just ironically, we heard from one of the Tennessee Three a few days ago that got a chance to talk to us about his experience. And this was before I was named. But I'm not fearful of losing my seat or anything. I'm going to continue to speak truth to power and fight and do everything I can to do my part in this historic moment that we find ourselves in.
Santita, I want to say something really quickly. You were talking about history and going back to the Voting Rights Act. We don't have to go back that far to see what their plans are. Literally last year in 2024, they sneakily, I think I made that word up, they sneakily did racist redistricting in North Carolina. They stole 3 seats by racistly gerrymandering Black people, and they gave the Republicans a 3 congressperson edge. And have you noticed that in Congress right here, right now, the Republicans have a 3 Republican lead? Mm-hmm. Have you noticed that Donald Trump has been able to pass his racist, anti-Black, anti-American, anti-hardworking, anti-LGBT, you name it. If you ain't a white billionaire, it's against you. He's been able to pass things because of that 3-person lead, right? So now he wants 5 because his big ugly bill only passed by 1 vote. And we didn't have a representative in CD 18. And let me be clear, my House District 147, shares is in CD 29, CD 9, and CD 18. All 3 are targeted. So it is by design. So they started in North Carolina, nobody paid attention. That's why they say, you know what, we can go to Texas. If we don't pay attention to Texas, you know what, they're going to go somewhere else and somewhere else, which is also why I'm incredibly thankful that because we had the courage to leave and go get reinforcements, that California said, oh, that's what you want to do? We about to give Democrats 3 more seats. New York said, oh, that's what you want to do? By 2028, we're going to give Democrats some more seats. So we're not about to play with you, because the last thing you can do with a bully is leave them alone, and they will crush you. So now that's what we're doing.
Why is the Black vote a target, or the target? Yep, I've got to ask the question.
Well, the Black vote is powerful, as we know. One thing I just want to say this: we are truly God's children. We are the race who have survived so much suffering. Think about it. There's no other race that has stood up like we have in terms of fighting suppression. Through our journey, we are true fighters by nature, and we have succeeded. One of the issues I'll tell you that really rocked people when in Houston, I believe it was either 17 or 19 Black females won judgeships. They
19.
called they called them Black Magic, right? And what happened was now not only this redistricting thing is going on or gerrymandering, but they're trying to dilute the power of judges so that people cannot have due process and the judges can't make decisions. So there's a lot of things going on where the establishment folks, i.e. Anglo, are really trying to take power away from Black people because they know, number one, we're strong, we're ready, we're fearless, and we're ready to fight. As well as, remember, in Texas, we have the largest population of African Americans there is in the country. And so when they come into Texas and looking at our governor who's willing to bend the knee, they feel we take Texas, we can take anywhere else. So any place else is even more vulnerable than Texas because of the Black presence in Texas. They also, if you know on the news, they're trying to disrupt our brown brothers and sisters too by taking them and picking them up off streets. I mean, it's just one of those things that the minority vote. In the state of Texas, the 95% of the growth is minorities. And they're not liking that. The abortion thing, they think, oh, well, we want to stop. We're pro-life. No, who's really having the abortions? It's the white women. And they see that Black and brown population growing. So they're scared. And so they're now got the courts on their side. They've got this Project 2025, and they're trying to dilute our power. Bottom line, we have finally woke up, and they're saying, no, we're going to suppress you. And we're going to make every word you say, every initiative that you say, a bad thing. We've got to turn that around.
But that question struck you in a particular way. It appears Texas State Representative Yolanda Jones. Why?
Because we descend from kings and queens and warrior chiefs. That's why. Mm-hmm. Because we are strong. And because we really vote overwhelmingly, we're the most reliable voter of Democrats. Republicans don't want Democrats, so they need to emasculate our people, figuratively speaking. And we cannot allow them to do that. And they're afraid of us. I mean, we already know everybody wants bigger lips. They want darker skin. They want our rear ends. That's everyone's trying to culturally appropriate us. They want everything that's Black, except for they don't want for us to have power. So in fact, they want to take our power as well. So it's a problem. And we're strong, and they know that they can target us because for whatever reasons, we are always we're always the first ones on the front line. And when we fight, everybody else, we all rise because we fight. And we always get the least. We're the ones who fight the most, and we get the least. So they figure we're a safe target for them to target because we are Black. And I'm Black and I'm proud. And let me be clear. This is not just in Texas. It is everywhere. They're trying to strip our voices in Congress everywhere. And I fear that if they take Congress in 2026, or if they keep Congress in 2026 by stealing congressional seats, that they are going to eviscerate the Constitution. Donald Trump will be president for a third term, which we know is illegal. Because the Supreme Court is not stopping him. The mainstream media is not stopping him. So that's why I want to thank you, Santita, because you speak truth to power, you tell the truth, and you don't let Trump and the Republicans and people that hate Black people control what the narrative is.
Well, before you go, I wanted to bring Attorney Darrell Jones on because he is a former prosecutor. And I take very seriously your Senator John Cornyn's request of the FBI to have you arrested. Why? Because we're watching elected officials arrested. We saw the senator from California. They escorted him into the room. Homeland Security escorted him into the hearing. Then when he tried to explain that this, as an Hispanic, an indigenous person who speaks Spanish, that he was the senator, they didn't believe him. You saw their foot on his back, and they had him down as if he had committed a felony, a violent felony at that. I mean, and we have one of our congresspersons from Newark, New Jersey, who is under indictment. So, game this out for us, because I take this threat to arrest them seriously. I don't think they should be afraid, and I think that if they get arrested, let's make it public if that's what they're going to do, because everybody needs to see it. But talk to me, Daryl. I mean, is the arrest the end, or do they just take them on the floor and then put them in jail? I mean, how is it supposed to work?
It's an excellent question, Santita, and it's an open question because, quite frankly, we don't come across this in a regular basis. Neither in a democracy nor in a courtroom is it something that we regularly come across. So let's start with the beginning part of it, where we have the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, going out looking for people that have committed no crime. There is no crime that has been committed. So at best, what they have is some type of state civil warrant that's out there, and that's not a role for the FBI to be involved in. So I mean, there's nowhere near the role that the FBI should be involved in. So the question becomes, if the FBI makes an arrest based on this, what do they do? Where are they going to take them? You know, are they going to fly them back to Texas? Are they going to detain them in a facility someplace? Well, you know, none of it makes sense. It shouldn't be happening. But I tell you what makes me even angrier, and what really, really is another message that's here, and I don't want anyone to miss it. Because the FBI should not be involved in this case, a message is being sent across the country about the reach of the federal government and the presidency and the Department of Justice with regards to issues that don't involve federal rights.
Federal question.
That's what's being sent across here. There's not a federal question that's at issue. So they're trying to show the expansion and the reach of their power to intimidate everyone else into compliance with whatever it is that they want to get done. So that's the basis of what's going on here, Santita, and it's very troublesome. So, you know, with that being said, I can't give you a strong analysis about the FBI in this situation because the FBI shouldn't be involved in this situation. You know, period. You know, the only entity that might have the ability to be involved in this situation is the state of Texas. That's it. You know, they're limited to the confines of the borders of the state of Texas. That's it. So that's the problem that they're facing. Now, and Representative Jones, of no relation to me, although she does a brilliant analysis, she laid out, you know, the issue dealing with the Supreme Court. But I also want to put another layer or two that's there, right? We know that because of the Rucho case that, you know, the Supreme Court has indicated that the federal courts cannot get involved when it comes to redistricting cases that are politically based. But it left the door open, of course, for state courts to get involved. And you still have the Texas State Court that could get involved in that regard. In addition to that, and what people, and Cynthia, you know, I say it, and I'll say it again, what people have got to be aware of is this complete attack that's on the voting rights of Black, Brown, as well as those voters with disabilities that are going on right now. Because we know that there's an Eighth Circuit decision that's out there that's pending, will be pending with the U.S. Supreme Court that denies access to the courts at all for private actions against lines that are drawn, racially drawn, discriminatorily drawn in elections across the country, wherever they are. Right, the Eighth Circuit right now, which encompasses like Oklahoma and some of the other areas that are there, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota. That's right now is where it is. It's going up to the Supreme Court for a decision. If that case goes through, what it will mean is that although, you know, Representative Jones is well versed and can bring her own case for a violation of the Voting Rights Act, it would prevent her from doing it. It would prevent anybody from doing it other than Pam Bondi and the Attorney General's office and the Department of Justice. So these are the pieces that are in play right now. So it's not just Texas, right? Texas is the one that that some people now are getting some sense of what's happening, but there's a much larger plan that's at play. And we've got to be certain that we're aware of all these pieces that are out there, because they're all going to come together and they may all end up at the U.S. Supreme Court, and we know how they are. So we've got to be certain that we know the pieces that are out there, that we understand where, as Representative Reynolds said, Texas is on the front line on this piece. But it's not just Texas, it's the rest of the country as well. So we've got to be certain that we're standing with these representatives that are holding the line of democracy. More importantly, if they've removed them from office, we need to be certain that the people in their districts are standing with them to put them back in office. We've got to be certain that's there. And Santita, you know where I'm going to go with this. They tried to do that to our guy, Marion Barry, here in the DC area. They would
That's
remove him
right.
from office, and if they got rid of him, he would be done. But what did the people in the district, in the ward in DC do? They said, no. That's our mayor, right? He's fighting for us. We're putting him back. Y'all deal with him. We've got to be certain that the folks in Texas that are in these districts with the folks that are holding down the fort, that are holding down the line for them, that these also hold down the line for their representatives. That's so important right now, Santita.
Attorney Jones, I wanted to add that what they want to take us to, when you talk about if they arrest us, they want to take us back to the floor of the House so we can sit there and vote or help them make quorum so they can get their seats. They want to pass that gerrymandering map. So that's all they want, to drag us back so they can get what they want. But I want to share with the people before we have to leave. Think about it. Someone who's willing to stick the FBI on you, tell lies about you, take your finances away, reduce your budget. And that's why I want to say to our young people, obviously, if they're willing to go to all of those measures, okay, politics is the game changer. They want it so bad that they're willing to hurt people who were duly elected by their community. So taking us back, we're not going back to the chambers and just go along to get along so they can get what they want. It's a problem for us. Thank you, Santita, for having us.
Well, we want to thank you, and we've got Pastor Jamar Boyd II, who is the pastor of the Kenwood United Church of Christ. And we're so excited that he is organizing all of you. He has 7 churches already for you to go see tomorrow. And so I know he is here with us. I know he's actually been making these calls literally up until we came up today. Pastor Boyd, do you want to say something before they go? I want to continue on with you.
Please don't tell us what churches you're taking us to.
No.
FBI is hunting us.
No, that's all right. But guess what? Guess what? No. Our churches are time enough for them.
Okay.
Trust and believe. We got this on lock. That's why you need to be in Chicago. That's how we get down here. Hello, Pastor Boyd. Before they go, what do you want to tell them? Of course, not where they're going. Not where they're going tomorrow.
First and foremost is thank you for what you're doing. It is absolutely critical and essential in this moment. Secondly, is what we said this morning. This is not just a political fight. This is spiritual warfare at its height, in its most intense sense. And thirdly, I want Black folk, whether you are Christian, Muslim, non-affiliated, non-believer, atheist, agnostic, or anything in between, to understand the police are not going to ask what your religion is when they come get you. They're going to see that you're a Negro in America, and that's what matters. So understand this is a fight for your human existence and your political power in this country.
Well, there's that. Representative Jolanda Jones and Representative Ron Reynolds, is there anything you all want to say? Now, I'm going to have you on Keep Up Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson in the morning, because Reverend wants everyone to hear you, because people do not understand. They really don't understand what's going on here. And it's shocking to me, I guess, because we've been so in it. And Ethelene, I hear you said you are tired. You voted for Trump and you have no regrets. I hear you, but it's that the regrets are coming, honey. You said you support his immigration policy wholeheartedly. Okay. What you don't care about is having Black bodies in elected office who do nothing for foundational Black Americans, while going all out for illegals and the alphabet crew. I think you are not talking about these people, but I hear you. That's a prevailing sentiment, because we've got a lot going on in America right now, particularly in the Black community. Is there anything you'd like to say, Jolanda or Ron, before you go? Jolanda?
I'll let Ron go.
I just want to say thank you again for having us on. This helps us elevate the message, and it's so important that people stay engaged, informed, so that they can empower themselves with the information that they need to change and be a change agent and to be on the front line with us. You don't have to have a title or a position. You have a right to vote, and your vote is the most precious thing that we have. And so please exercise that right to vote and stand with us as we continue to stand for you.
And I say this: we want for y'all to fight with us and for us, because again, we are being hunted by the FBI. But apart from that, when they come for you, we're gonna be there for you. Trust and believe. An affront to a Black person in Texas really is an affront to you, because if they can get away with it in Texas, they can get away with it everywhere. And so we thank you for your support. Thank you, Illinois. Thank you, Chicago, for holding us in your arms. And it reminds me of how we were during segregation. We understood that we were there for each other. And if we didn't do it for each other, nobody else would. And that's the vibe I'm getting. I love it. I love it. And I'm appreciative of it.
As you say, sending you all so much love. And we're glad that you are safe, and you're going to be safe, and it's going to be all right, because this is the fight. And, nothing ventured, nothing gained. We've got to take the risk. We've got to because guess what? Doing nothing makes us far less safe. We can't go unrepresented. We can't. I'm sending you so much love. Texas State Representative, the chair of the Black Caucus there, of course, Representative Barbara Gervin, she went on, but did you go? Okay, Barbara Gervin Hawkins, and Texas State Representative Yolanda Jones, and Ron Reynolds is already gone.
We got to go. We're leaving.
Yeah,
go.
We got to go.
Love you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Pastor Boyd, why is the Black church in your mind central to this fight? That was when we were together a little bit earlier today, Daryl Jones. It's almost made him jump out of his seat. He said, wait. You've got to go. This is because we really took a page from Reverend Jackson's playbook. Right? I mean, when he was running for president, they were saying that he really confounded the Secret Service, because sometimes they would land and they wouldn't have no itinerary. They said he had his itinerary in his head. We're going to go here, 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 here. And that was that. So why is the Black church still so central in our lives, Pastor Boyd?
In one essence, the Black church is still the only independent entity that Black folks control in this country. Now, we can talk about theology, we can talk about how money, we can talk about that at a different level. But from a political sense, the Black church is not in bed, quote unquote, with empire. So there is no entity, there are no individuals that can actually control the moves of the Black church. The second thing is, it is owned and operated by us. We are the largest, Black churches rather, are the largest landowners in this country when it comes to Black folks. So when you want to talk about control and power and influence as it relates to property, as it relates to land and proximity to people, it is the Black church. And then thirdly, in moments of crisis or human chaos or political deconstruction, if you will, Black churches are still the most trusted institution in Black communities when it comes to truth, transparency, and receiving of information that will either educate, empower, or propel folks into advocacy. Now, again, there are different ways you can go about this conversation through each of those aspects, but the Black church is still central and pivotal in each of those things that I just mentioned.
Attorney Daryl Jones, and of course you can be heard on WOL in Washington, D.C., WOL DC, every Tuesday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. I think Pastor Boyd just brought up segregation. And one of the advantages of that moment in history is that it pulled us together. We had to depend upon our networks. And that was something I think that they were pleasantly surprised. I think, Pastor Boyd, would you not agree that they had so much love and support from, I mean, because I said, believe me, you reached many more people than you saw today because we're on TV, radio, and social media. So many people came up to us after the meeting and said, "How can we pass this? How can we pass this along?" Because there's so much that they don't know, Daryl Jones. No one's explaining that these people make only $600 a month, so they're leaving their jobs. Now, in 2021, they were threatened with having their jobs taken from them, as you recall. I know that they're under a tremendous amount of pressure right now. And I mean, talk to me. I mean, so I mean, what about this organizing that we have to do in this moment? And as Reverend Jackson said, Pastor Boyd and Attorney Jones, you don't fight fire with fire. You fight fire with water. What about registering people to vote and getting them involved? And I'd like you both to speak to that because a lot of our young people are turned off by they're turned off by politics because they've been so let down. They've been, and I'm not upset with them. I'm really not. I get it. I just know that this is the mechanism that we've got, and we've got to use it. Attorney Jones.
You're absolutely right, Santita, that some of our young voters have been turned off from what they're seeing in the political landscape, what they saw happen with regards to Gaza, what they saw happen with regards to their interests, being swept aside, their voting rights being suppressed. Yeah, there are a lot of them that were turned off by it. But let's be clear, there are a lot of Americans that were turned off by the process of seeing all the all the anger and all the disconnection that's going on Capitol Hill and beyond. Texas now is another example of that. It's one thing when you have sides that are playing by the same rules, respecting the same rules, and respecting the results. That's not what's happening right now across the country. You have people that are trying to change rules in the middle of the game. On one party in particular, that trying to change rules in the middle of the game. That's how you end up with a mid-year census to try to do redistricting mid-year.
Have you ever heard of anything like this?
I've never heard of a mid-year census, never heard of a mid-year census. And so, this is part of the anger, part of the confusion, part of the I don't want anything to do with this that we're receiving, not simply from young Americans, but from a lot of Americans that are just are through with the process. That's one of those. I can remember hearing people say, they're going to do what they want to do anyway. My vote doesn't matter. They're going to do what they want to do anyway. This is an example of that. This is showing that this is what they want to do. This is what they're going to do. They don't care about my vote. They don't. So the response to that has got to be that we have got to register. We've got to fight. We got to get in the streets, and have our voices raised. If we are silent as these attacks occur, the only thing that silence is going to do is to build the confidence of the opponent. So they'll do whatever they want to do because you're silent. You want to know how far they can go? How quiet will you be? Because it's when you start raising your voice that they then will feel the pushback of what they're doing. But if they're not experiencing any pushback, they're going to continue pushing forward. So at this point in time, one of the things we've got to be certain that we're doing is that we're, supporting the legislators that are in the state of Texas that are targeted in these areas. You don't have to live in Texas to support these legislators. You don't. You can support them financially if they're up for as they're up for re-election. You can support them by being part of making phone calls, their phone banking system, or sending emails into people in Texas. They have all kinds of van lists and things like that for voter access networking that you can help support these folks. You've got to be certain that you're supporting the change that you want to have occur. And that's in Texas or wherever you are across the country. Because as we've heard, they're not stopping with Texas. We already know they're looking at Missouri, that they're there. They're going to be looking at Florida. They're going to be there. So all of these areas where they're going to be looking to suppress, push down, disregard, make it more difficult, confuse brown and black voters, we've got to be certain that we're stepping into that void to educate, to turn on the light, to let them know this is what we're going to do. That's part of the reason that in 2 weeks or so, 2 or 3 weeks or so, we're going to be down in Florida at the NAACP convention conference. They're talking about the issues that are going on in Florida to educate them, to be certain that they know this is how what's happening in Texas influences what's happening in Florida, influences what's happening across our country. So it's really important, Santita, that we that we educate as much as we can with regards to the occurrence of what's happening, but that we also show the game plan, show what can be done, the pushback that can occur, the response to when your buttons are pushed, what you've got to do to fight back. And that's one of the reasons I'm so proud of all of the legislators in Texas that are showing we can fight back, and we're going to fight back with whatever tools we have in our shed.
Well, I'm very excited about these young pastors too, who
Mm-hmm.
Reverend Boyd has been organizing, because he's a very young man, and I say that with love, but you are, and immediately you got on the phone and you started looking for pastors, and you came up with more than half a dozen. What did you say to them? I mean, was it hard to be? What did you say to them that made them say, "Oh no, get them over to my church tomorrow"? Oh, you're muted. Okay.
It wasn't hard at all, which is good. The ones that I was able to get on the phone immediately were those that I had some sense of personal relationship with. So there is an alignment with our theological dispositions or our political advocacy or just the awareness of the work and the respect of the work that they have done. And it was a simple question: do you have a problem with this group of folks coming to your church and giving them a moment? And the immediate answer was no. What time works for them? And that was the response. I think the other is there is this acceptance, if you will, whether willingly or reluctantly, that we have a responsibility to serve this present age. And that means doing what the elders did, what the ancestors did, which was understanding part of your job, part of your responsibility as a pastor is to be prophet as well as responsible to the well-being of the people in your congregation and in your community. And to just echo Attorney Jones's sentiments and sharing, I'm a South Carolinian by birth, by nativity. That is where I was raised. That's my family's home. One of our representatives, Representative Norman, just stated 2 days ago that he believes Congressman Clyburn's district, which is the only African American district in the state of South Carolina, should be gerrymandered, which would remove Congressman Clyburn. So all of the low country of South Carolina, Orangeburg, Hilton Head, Walterboro, all those key areas, even into the PD of South Carolina, would no longer have a Black representative in the United States House of Representatives.
In South Carolina.
In South Carolina, Marsha Blackburn in Tennessee has now announced that she's running for governor and is supporting gerrymandering in the state of Tennessee. It is occurring in Alabama, although the courts have said what they did was unconstitutional and that they have to do these two districts. They themselves are preparing to go to a special session to redraw those same maps. So now, if ever, it's incumbent upon pastors to understand you have a responsibility in this moment to educate your congregations, because more than likely they do not understand what is going on, and it's not their fault. It is the play of the power brokers in this moment.
Well, what do you say to young people now? Because we did see a cleave in the Black vote. We saw more Black Americans not vote, and we saw more Black Americans not vote for Kamala Harris. And, just I can't even make it about a party as much as I can make it about a person, because more and more you're seeing that's what Americans are doing. We're looking to send somebody to Washington who's going to fight the good fight.
Yeah.
What do you say to these young people right now, particularly at this moment? Because look, this past week we've had them not run away, but run for freedom, because that's really what they're doing. They're making a break for freedom. You have a mid-decade census that's been put out here. You have Congress, you have governors in red and blue states who are looking at redrawing their districts right now. And you're watching, it's already happened in Los Angeles. Now we're beginning to see the president push to put the army military on our streets. And that's coming at a time when more and more Americans are getting angrier and angrier about everything. It's like we're coming under martial law.
I was on the phone earlier with a pastor who reminded me that today is the anniversary this weekend of Mike Brown being in St. Louis, in Ferguson. And it struck a moment of remembrance for me because that is when my generation, this sector of the millennial generation, really came into our political awakening. The death, the murder, the assassination, if you will, of Mike Brown. Because it was Mike Brown, it was Tamir Rice, and the list goes on and on and on. And in that moment, we understood there were no more rules. We may have had a black man in the White House, but there were no rules of how we were to either survive or to exist and coexist. And I just want to remind, especially millennials of my age, I'm 31, so that era, that sector of millennials, but especially Gen Z, there are no rules right now. The gloves have been taken off, and we are under fugitive slave law. We are under Jim Crow, and we are in post-Reconstruction as we've known it. And so in this moment, you really have to ask yourself, what am I willing to give and to give up for the sake of freedom and liberation, not just of myself. I think about my 88-year-old great-grandmother who is still living, my grandparents who are all in their 70s. I've got a godson who just turned 6 years old. And so for me, I'm consistently asking the question. I'm serving a congregation that is predominantly elder African-American in a neighborhood of Kenwood that is quickly being gentrified. So what does that mean for me, but also for my family who is in rural South Carolina, suburban metro Atlanta, and in Harlem? The world that we've known is no more. And so there is a responsibility I have to figure out, what do I want this world to be and how do I participate in it? And that may mean I am sacrificing a far lot more than I want to sacrifice in the immediate, but for the long term, it's going to be beneficial. And at the same time, there's something to learn from the elders and from the ancestors. My grandparents are not afraid right now. They are so unbothered in a healthy way that my grandmother consistently reminds me, you all are so smart that you're stupid.
Ooh, whoa, you sound like my mom right now, which is kind of what she was telling us today.
she constantly says, there is intellect that you learned in a classroom, but there is wisdom that's before you that you are not taking in.
Oh my God.
And it is incumbent before us as millennials, as Gen Zers, even Gen Xers. You better talk to these baby boomers. You better talk to these silent generation folks, because they have the tools and the strategies that can be reimagined right now. But what they did actually may be what helps us to survive and propel us forward. Not doing it the same way, but taking the wisdom, taking the lessons, and figuring out, all right, we have AI now. So that's an additional level of security and surveillance. Y'all were doing green books. Y'all were doing meetings in the fellowship hall and Miss Hattie's house. Okay, all right. Just pay attention to what the elders did and figure out how you can utilize it today.
Because that works today.
It still works.
I mean, we had, yeah. I mean, because just so that you know, today we didn't go to a restaurant. We got some fried chicken, some sweet potatoes, some greens, some cornbread, and some macaroni and cheese, and some fried corn. And they were so happy because they said, "Ooh, I feel like I'm at home." And we were in the Push building where people could relax and be themselves. I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, we've gotten so far away. I just have to say that, because that's the wisdom of the elders. My mother says, you have more at your disposal and you all have done nothing with it. What's on your mind, Darryl?
Well, now you've made me hungry.
Oh, it was good food. It was good.
But the one thing I wanted to add to what Reverend Boyd just said, as he was talking about Gen Z, and as you know, we work a lot with Gen Z and young millennials. But the one message that I want Gen Z and the young millennials to remember, that on your heels is Gen Alpha. And they are watching everything that you're doing and how you deal with what's going on right now. And you're now beginning to show them how to deal, because they're going to mimic what you do. So if you stand up, they know how to stand up. If you don't stand up, then they're like, I guess we don't fight back. So they're watching you. That responsibility is also on your shoulders. So while you're asking the elders and watching the elders and learning from the elders, Gen Alpha is also watching you. And I want to be certain that's remembered.
WOLDC every Tuesday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. You've got to join them on this show. I hope you'll be talking about this on Tuesday. Every platform that we have, every time that we can, we need to do this. We're not going to win this in the streets, in the suites. We're going to win it in the streets. We have to make this part of our conversation. These are our people. I'm not just saying Black people, but they are Black people, because it always hits Black people first, and it always hits us hardest. And Arlene, I hear you said there were, and still there are still too many Dems pushing both parties with the same narrative. Maybe you're talking about me. Voter apathy resulted, which allowed Trump to win. I didn't do that. That was something the Democrats. I didn't give Kamala 107 days to run. We asked Joe Biden to come out the race 2 years before, like he said he was going to do. He said he was going to be a transitional president. I didn't do that. And I'm not holding a cudgel over her head, telling her that if she tells what she really experienced during her term and during her presidential campaign, that they're going to release information about her that's damaging. That's coming. Mark Halperin just reported that. I'm sure you heard about that, Daryl Jones and Pastor Jamar Boyd II. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. So read the reports. He just reported that Mark Halperin, the very respected reporter, just reported that this week, that she is being threatened with having unflattering information released about her by her former team. Are you serious? So when our young people see this, and when our young people see a bipartisan betrayal, when our young people see Democrats and Republicans sign up for a slaughter in Gaza, don't talk to me.
Santita, can I say something to that?
Absolutely.
I am so encouraged by Zoran Mandami in New York because it reminds folks, and I have this conversation with the elders as well. You all didn't wait your turn. Y'all didn't do that.
That's right.
You found your lane and you rode that lane out until you couldn't ride it anymore. And I hope this encourages millennials, Gen Z, as well as Gen Alpha. Thank you, Attorney Jones, for reminding me of that. When you find your lane, get in your lane and ride your lane out. Zoran Mandami served in the Assembly for New York City. He is now a candidate, and we're not going to talk about why the party refuses to endorse him, but they refuse to do it. And I hope the establishment understands when you refuse to endorse and embrace young leadership, it increases the apathy amongst the young electorate. And to see the things that have come out over the last week or so about him, regardless rather of how he was raised and who his parents are and where he went to school and things of that nature, what are the policy positions? What has he accomplished? Who is he in relationship with? And still ask the questions to hold him accountable. Are these white progressives the same white progressives that got us in this position in the first place? Or are the white progressives that are supporting you going to elevate minority communities and displaced folks to put them in a position of equity and equality? Those are good questions and good things to be engaging. And I hope the party, the establishment, is paying attention, because if they do not do right by Mr. Mandami, I am afraid of what is going to happen in 2026.
AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota, the Santita Jackson Show, Pastor Jamar Boyd II, and Attorney Daryl Jones, chair of the Transformative Justice Coalition. Hear what he said, everybody. Think about that. God bless you, everybody. I'm going to keep on going for a hot second. AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota, the Santita Jackson Show, just going just a little longer. Pastor Boyd, I want you to go into depth a little bit more, because I think that it is important for people to hear that. And that's its own show, quite frankly. Because the thing is, the Democrats didn't invite Reverend in. In fact, they rejected him every step of the way, Arlene. And the thing is, we had to fight our way in. We had no space with the Republicans and had no taste for the Republicans, given the fact that they had a candidate who had one of his opening events in Philadelphia, Mississippi, where they killed Goodman, Schwerner, and Cheney. That's all it's famous for. But then I grew up in a Chicago that they oppressed every Black person here. So I mean, please just stop it. This is about power. And we go where we need to go to get what we need to get done. I worship the Lord. After that, I work with other people. Mm-hmm. And I mean, and you see the Democratic establishment, well, they're letting you know when people tell you they are, Pastor Boyd, believe them. They're letting you know by how they're handling Mom Donnie. Attorney Darrell Jones, they're letting you know who they are. And I'm like, you're shooting yourself in the foot. I'm not doing that. That's right. You're telling young people, you're telling people who are disaffected, this is how you feel about my will. They voted for him. And what you're doing is you're making them jump through all these hoops. You don't want him, but the people do. The people do. What does that say to you, Reverend Boyd?
It is a awakening, I believe, for a generation that may have been conscious of the possibility, but unaware of its reality, that the establishment will turn on the people when the establishment cannot get what the establishment wants. So when corporate America, when the financial sector, when the automobile industry, when international trade and diplomacy cannot go the way it's supposed to go in the establishment's eyes, they would do everything possible to prohibit the people's agenda from going forward. And I think it's essential that this current electorate of millennials and Gen Zers understand all politics are local. That's number one. So in Chicago, when you have 13% voter turnout in the mayoral runoff, that's a problem. When you only have 30-something% in the city council and school board elections, that's a problem. And when we're not participating above 50% in state elections, that's a problem as well, because it just becomes a microcosm of what occurs at the federal level, when we're seeing only 30 to 40% of people participate in federal elections every other year and every 4 years. So I think that's one. I think the other is we need an agenda. Mrs. J has talked about this a lot over the last year. I've been in numerous conversations with Black leaders. We can't get, if there's anything that I'll give Republicans credit for, they have had an agenda for the last 80 years, and they have accomplished everything on that agenda. The night of President Obama's inauguration, they had a meeting and said, we will not work with him. And this is why we're not going to do it.
And it's written in a book.
It's written.
David Daley wrote it. Rat Apt.
It's written.
Vote doesn't count. They wrote it.
2025 was released. 2019, the full extent of Project 2025 was released in 2023. So it's not like we didn't know what their agenda was. We were not proactive in preparation and putting up blockades. And additionally, we have to get to the position of understanding, no, we are not a monolithic people. We never will be a monolithic people. But there are principles within policy that should be non-negotiable for Black and brown folks in this country. And we haven't done it yet. And we're behind the 8 ball. Until we get an agenda, a proactive agenda, we will not be able to resist and be victorious in the ways in which we can and should be. We have the power. We have the economic power. We have the people power. We have the political power. We have the cultural influence. We have it. But you've got to put it all together to do what's necessary. And I'm actually optimistic for Gen Z. Gen Z is proving consistently what you millennials and Gen Xers won't do. we're willing to do it. I'm just hoping that we can give them the equipment and the technologies that are necessary to do it well.
Well, we have to understand what we're facing. Everyone talks about Trump, 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 and you don't look at J.D. Vance, who's 40. You don't look at who put him on the ticket. You don't look at Palantir. You don't even know who they are. You need to understand you need to understand what happened to businesses under COVID, and all the businesses were absorbed by one corporation called Amazon, and a few big box stores. I mean, you got to understand. I can walk into a CVS or a Walgreens right now, and I'm looking for a product, and it's not there. But if I go on Amazon, it's sitting right there. I'm like, really? So what we have? So we don't have the corner store anymore. I mean, think about that. So you got to understand who you need to fight, because small businesses are at risk. Our freedoms are at risk. If they deploy the military on our streets, what does that say? Because let me tell you, the Doge cuts and the big beautiful bill cuts are supposed to in November of 2026. We haven't seen what this is going to yield. We haven't seen where the tariffs are going to go. That's a tax on us, on the consumers. And when that happens, a lot of people are going to be very upset. But not the police. The police have been trained to occupy because they were trained overseas. But the military will be here. What? Oh my goodness! What symbolism to have the U.S. military on the streets of Washington D.C., our national capital, the capital of what is supposed to be the free world, will now be patrolled by the military. What does that say to you, everybody? What does that say, Daryl? What, Pastor Boyd? No, we've got a lot of work to do, but I'm like you, Pastor Boyd and Attorney Jones. I feel very hopeful because I think now people are pushing, and when these folks got on these planes, and Attorney Jones, Representative Jones, she said, "Look, I flew commercial. I got on a plane. I just picked up and left." And they had no time. They literally had to throw things in bags and get out of Dodge. That's what they had to do. And they were not, as she said, we're not running away. We're making a run for freedom. Think about that, everybody. We'll be talking about that on Keep Reverend Jesse Jackson tomorrow morning. Oh, that's all right. Is that Bailey? I can't believe Bailey is that loud. This dog is this big. As big as an embryo. That's okay. I'm not mad at you, but watch your door. but I want you to know I love you so much. I'm really excited about what is transpiring, because I think that every action merits an equal and opposite reaction. As the oligarchs are pulling their way, the people are pulling our way, and that's a good thing. And the people will win. That's how America was born in the first place, y'all. Think about it. Yeah. We got our problems, and we got a lot of things to work through, and we're still working through them. But Reverend Jesse Jackson says, if you don't fight, you're guaranteed to lose. But if you do fight, you just might win. And we've never lost a battle unless we tried to fight. We always win. But you got to get out there and fight. Get registered and vote, everybody. I'm not asking you to go to a party. I'm asking you to go to a principle. Think about people eating. Think about affordable housing. And once you cast that vote, you make the people you voted for do what you sent them there to do. If you want to be part of a monarchy, let other people do the work. But if you're going to be part of a republic, you got to get involved. Come on, everybody. And when you are in Chicago, go by Kenwood United Church of Christ. That's right. Get on over there. But as you are corralling everybody to go to all these churches tomorrow, just let me know what's going on, because this is exciting stuff. And they will be at a church near you tomorrow. And that's right. That's where they're going. Everybody who's looking, that's where they're going. So you roll up on these churches, why don't you? That's all right. Hey, I'm not mad. Come on, let's do this. This is about saving the republic. This is about creating a democracy. This is about freedom. More than that, this is about liberty and justice for all. God bless everybody. Thank you for tuning in today. Like and share the show. I'm on Blue Sky, the Santita Jackson, at santitajackson.bsky.social. Santita Jackson and Friends on Facebook. That's the only place where I can get friends. At Santita J on X. And, if I've forgotten anything, oh, that's right, the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Like and subscribe and forward this show along. Tomorrow morning, we will be on the iHeartRadio network talking about this topic. You don't want to miss it because this is really important. We've got the census to look at, unprecedented census in the middle of the decade. We've got these people making a run for freedom. We've got the police being moved out of the way so that the military can police you. What is that going to mean? If the military are on your streets, they're the new police. Wow. Think about that, everybody. God bless you. Pastor Boyd, I will call you Daryl Jones. I got you at 7. I've already claimed it. Thank you. Which is 8 your time. There you go. Pastor Boyd, let me know if you have any time in the morning before you preach.
Okay.
Okay? Like anytime before